from a kind of school where half the stuff I talk about is technical, and half the stuff I talk about is politics. So, a lot of anger, a lot of.
Let me just introduce it here because we're recording now, and I don't know who's getting that echo. I don't know if that's me, but we were just talking about on the Google Plus communities how posting is very easy. That it just takes a second to post something, or 30 seconds. You put a link up there, but the commenting is kind of difficult. You have to read the post, you have to think about it. And Michael was raising the point that he came from a culture where commenting was more common and posting wasn't. So why don't you go and complete that thought, Michael, and then we'll go back to informal. I just wanted to give an introduction to the people watching the recording.
Yeah, I mean, I started really as a kid in communities, and I didn't have a lot to say that was original. So, I mean, commenting was just, okay, here's the point somebody says, I either agree with it or I don't agree with it. If I agree with it, it's a short, hey, yeah, great. If I don't agree with it, I can, I can bounce off of that. But coming up with something original, that was something that was, at first I didn't even have rights to it because, who gives a 12-year-old an entree?
Well, when you say in communities as a kid, you mean online communities? Right?
Online communities, yeah.
Okay.
I was a very, very much in the propeller head world. My parents were engineers.
When I was a kid, computers didn't even exist. In my college, they were in a huge room with glass that had less power than the most minuscule. I mean, less power than even the most minuscule computers 10 years later. But anyway, we got somebody else joined us. This is good because I didn't think people could join after the broadcasting started. So I'm learning. So Chris, welcome.
Thanks, sir. Pleasure to be here.
Thanks, Chris.
We're just yakking. We were talking a little bit about commenting versus posting on boards. But why don't we go around and introduce each other, even if you already know each other. Chris, why don't you start? Since we're, tell us where you are, what city you're in, and if you want a little bit about what you do.
Well, I'm Chris Jenkins. I'm in Clearwater, Florida, web developer, president of I'mThereWebGuy.com, and partner with Derek Ross and a lot of the other Google brand ambassadors for the LivingThroughGlass.com project.
Living Through Glass, is that Google Glasses, or what is that?
Yeah, we're all Google Glass Explorers.
Wow. So do you have a pair?
Oh, no. Only the IO 2012 folks have theirs yet. We're part of the If I Had Glass second round, hope to get it soon crew.
Boy, those things are going to change the world, man. Those are just so weird. Well, let's get back to that and go around with the introductions. April, why don't you go next?
My name is April Williams, and I do marketing and real estate in Alabama, and I live in southern Mississippi.
Okay. And you were the one telling us last time about your local marketing business. Is that correct?
Yes, it's reputation marketing, and it takes your word of mouth and puts it basically online with customer reviews.
Yeah, I'll tell you, you really intrigued me with that because I was thinking of a business anyway, and it was just very exploratory to help people just get their Google Plus listings up. And I was going to do this for $100 a pop, so it was just a real, I mean, I'd like it if I could quickly get 100. I did it for one guy for 100. It's not that easy. It's not, I mean, people have to take the time and do it. And you have to set up the coupons and stuff. But as you explained it to me, you actually do some absurd number of local sites, like 80 or something like that.
We will pull all of your local and search sites, and depending on where you're at, there's about 168 of them.
A lot of those must be minor, though, right? I mean, does that?
They are some migrating just to your specific area, but the problem is that you don't know who's looking on what sites. And if they're up and running, somebody's looking at them.
Okay. Well,
so you're going to want to be.
Yeah, that's a very cool business. I'm really kind of intrigued by that. Let's go to Michael, who's going by the name, his initials on his profile, TM. Michael, you're from Chicago, but I didn't hear that much about what you're up to lately.
I am setting up a startup called Citizen Intelligence. Mm-hmm. Looking at the politics end of things, I mean, theoretically, we're all supposed to run the country. I mean, that's the way it's supposed to work, but who has time? And part of the problem is that we're missing some basic information. I mean, if you go and think about what governments you're supposed to be keeping an eye on, come up with a list in your head, chances are you're going to miss a few.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't even know their names, you don't even know who's in them, you don't know how to get in touch with them, how are you going to keep an eye on them?
Are you talking about domestic or international? When you say government,
I mean, yeah, governments. I mean, the United States is kind of weird in that we elect everything. Most other countries don't. But there are places like Chicago, for instance. Cook County has 535 governments in it. Separate governments. And
yeah, they're everywhere. Those special districts.
Yeah.
People don't know how many are. They're all over the place.
There are like 37,000 special districts, about 38,000 municipals, and about a little under 13,000 school districts.
Okay.
So you're talking about 89,000 governments, which is not huge. I mean, it's for a database guy, but for an everyday ordinary person, I mean, the fact that I have to monitor 13 governments is just that's too much.
Now, is this a good citizen type project, or are you monetizing this somehow?
Right now, it's mostly I'm at the stage of trying to get enough data into the database to start putting out reports. Yes, I will be monetizing it. If it's not sustainable, it's no good. If I have to depend on the kindness of strangers, eventually they will want the thing back. And I want deeply to keep this independent.
Okay.
So
that's a cool deal. Could you put the link in for us into the chat window, just so we can take a gander?
Okay. But
and I want to move on. I want to.
if I can figure out how to do that, I will.
It's just to your right. Well, if you're on a desktop, it's to your right. It's in the bottom. Don't worry about it again. We can get it later.
CitizenIntelligence.org.
Should be in the bottom right-hand corner. I don't know if you're on a mobile device or not.
I'm not. But,
bottom right-hand corner. You don't see it there under group chat.
No, it kind of doesn't have anything on the bottom.
Okay, we'll get that later. I want to say hello to Charlie. Hi, Charlie.
Hey, Rob. How's it going? Everyone else?
We're just doing the introductions now. This is kind of informal. We are recording, which is no big deal because probably no one will watch it. But Charlie, why don't you tell us where you're from and, if you want, a little bit about what you do.
Well, I'm from Alabama, just south of Montgomery, and the main thing I do is marketing and management solutions for construction.
Okay. And how's that going these days?
It's going good. I'm just starting this off, building my network and seeing how things are going. So far, the network's built, but as far as sales, you got to start moving them along.
Well, that's something. I'm just not good at sales, and that's kind of. You don't have any choice but to be good at sales. You're a small business. You don't have that down. You don't have anything down. So I'm actually trying to read up a little bit. I'm okay at networking, but not good at sales, and they're different. You have to get people over that finish line. And that's something I personally have to work on. So let's see. Who do we want to introduce next? Yeah, Chris. Nathaniel, I already know a bit about what you do, but why don't we were talking earlier about Nathaniel's. He's done something that I've read about, but I've never seen anybody do successfully. But he does. He develops niche marketing sites and has affiliate deals. So why don't you explain it in your own words so I don't botch it, Nathaniel?
Well, no, that's pretty much it. Can you guys hear me? I was messing with my mic.
No worries. Yeah, you're fine. Yeah,
that's pretty much it. I kind of do research into what people are looking for on the internet and then match them up with products and build websites that they can find in Google.
Okay. Am I allowed to say because you showed me them, am I allowed to say some of your projects? Because we're on air.
That's fine.
Can I say them? Okay, he has one for, I had always thought of affiliate marketing as being really hokey products. But you have one for virtual private networks, and that's not hokey at all.
Yeah.
That's a pretty sophisticated project. And then I saw one that might have crossed a little bit into the hokey line, which are edible gold.
That is.
People actually eat gold. I mean, come on.
You got to experiment with different projects. I mean, that one's a pretty new site, and it actually hasn't made any sales yet. I did kind of not so great research research on it, but it was something I wanted to. Another thing you can do with these sites is you can flip them. So if you start a site, say you do some market research and you think something could be profitable, but you don't want to take it all the way, you can build the initial site and then sell it to someone who wants to work on it.
Wow,
So,
what a good idea!
it cost me $10 for a domain, and then takes me.
I always thought that would be
2
fun
months.
too. I'm pretty good at coming up with domain names, and I just thought that would be kind of fun, kind of like house flipping for poor people or something.
Well, that's it. There's a niche anywhere that you look. So if house flipping for poor people is like, you see people are searching for that in Google, you could make a site out of that and you can make money from it.
Well, the point I wanted to make about that, I think the whole thing is, from what I've read about the kind of business you're in, is you look for an extreme niche. Is that correct? You look for something that's very narrow.
Well, it depends. If you find something very narrow, it ranks faster in Google. It's easier to connect with your audience. You know more of what your products are. If you get a broader niche, there's a lot more competition, but you have bigger potential for profits.
I see. Okay. I want to introduce or say hello to Adrian. Adrian, welcome. Can you hear us, Adrian?
Yes, I can. Sorry, the microphone. It was muted. Yeah, sorry.
Hey, no worries. We're just introducing each other. Maybe you could tell us what city you're in, a little bit about what you do if you want.
Yeah, sure. I'm down in Houston, Texas, and we're a small business, bookkeeping, tax work for other small businesses here in Houston and across the country.
Boy, terrible news. Terrible
simple
news
bookkeeping, if you want to know.
Terrible news out of Texas. Really sorry what's going on in Waco. Gosh, it's just awful.
Yeah, Waco just doesn't have good news a lot of the time.
That's a bad luck city.
Yeah.
They should move that city or something, or change the name. But did everybody see that awful viral video?
No, I haven't seen it.
You didn't see that yet? It's a guy in his car, and he's taking a picture of the fire at the fertilizer plant from real far away, and he's talking to his kid, and the thing is burning, but he's really far. And the shockwave hits him, and I think it knocks over the car, and the kid starts crying and screaming. It's just I would watch it anyway. I mean, it's out there. Most of you haven't seen it, or?
I haven't.
Take a look. I watched it last night. It's jolting, but it's worth looking at. I assume they survived, or the video would never have been uploaded, but it's still pretty jolting. Well, I introduced myself off camera. I'll do it now. Although I have a real rough time with that simple little question, what do you do? It's like I get stumped. And we're all supposed to have a personal branding statement where that just flows out and you sound totally confident. Well, I don't. I start fumbling and digressing and whatever, crying. But basically, I've got a couple web projects. They don't have a lot of traction. One that I like, I have one called World Startups. I'm kind of looking for a partner for it, and it doesn't have a great business model, but it's basically a community site that I built with some open source platform. I'll put the URL in here. There's a hyphen between world and startups. http:// What I've learned is this stuff is really, really hard to do without a partner, and I'm trying to do it by myself. So I'm kind of looking for people, one person as a partner or more than one person to work with, because I learned that you have, on these things, you have community management, you have content management, you have development, you have marketing. A lot of stuff we do is just too much for one person. And the other thing I'm doing, or trying to do, I have a pretty long career as a project manager and a program manager. Sorry, I've already said this to a few people before we started, before we have to say it again. So I'm setting up a practice called Project Acceleration Services. And it's basically combining some of the modern task management, cloud-based task management tools to help people have their projects go faster, whether that's startups or even, or projects in companies, or even just personal projects. I was talking to a guy who does some web publishing work that wanted stuff to go faster. And then I'm going to try to combine that with brainstorming techniques. So we'll not only do the scientific side of scheduling your project, we'll also do the more right-brain, creative side. Let's look at this holistically. What can we do to take shortcuts to make this whole thing work faster? Anyway, I'm just getting going on that. I have a group on Google Plus called the Virtual Brain Trust that's intended to help people form teams. They gave me a lot of help with that. So in a big nutshell, I was just saying in a nutshell, I tend to ramble on too long, excuse me. In a big nutshell, that's what I'm doing. But what I want to do with this meeting, and again, I know I announced this was just an informal, meet and greet thing. But what I would like to do, since we're recording it anyway, is get a little bit of a sense from you guys of two things. One, well, maybe three. What would you like to get out of the entrepreneurs community on Google+? Two, are there ways you see that we can cooperate or collaborate, and how you think that should work? And three, what kind of topics would you like to cover in future Hangouts? So anybody can start. Now we can go kind of free form, and you can answer any or all of those questions as you see fit, and I'll try to shut up and just listen for a while. So anybody just jump in now. We've got the introductions out of the way.
I'll go ahead and start here, Rob. I've actually found the community to really meet and exceed all my needs. I think everyone does a pretty good job of taking it upon themselves to keep the quality and content great within it.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. Yeah, it's a good community. I think it's the best. And I can't remember if I said this on camera or off, but the Google is, I was just reading last night that Google's going to like double in size for small business. And I think we've got the best business community now. So, if we start getting better, that can only be good for all of us. So
right.
Anybody have other thoughts on, ways we can cooperate more effectively to each other's advantage?
Yeah, I've got, and I'll give a shout out to our little networking group, the Entrepreneur Social Club. Anybody who's following me has probably seen the posts that come up time to time, and that's a community. Sort of a local networking group. But we've brought that from our Facebook group over to a community on Google+. And I think one of the things about the Entrepreneur Social Club model that really could be emulated in a much wider scale is the fact that we're all willing to do the bare minimum, right? Share somebody's content plus somebody's content. I mean, there's so many things that you can do collaboratively that take no effort at all whatsoever.
Exactly. Some of these things, there's no downside to them, so why aren't we doing them? As a small example, adding each other on LinkedIn. That doesn't hurt anything.
And then above and beyond that, we actually created a group called the 4-Hour Commitment, and it was just the idea that once a quarter we would pick some small business that was struggling, needed some help, and each of us contribute 4 hours of our time, services, skills, whatever, to helping build that business up, which then helps strengthen our local community. So there's a greater meta give back to it. It's not necessarily a direct one-to-one reward relationship, but when you're encouraging other businesses to succeed that are in similar spaces with you, then you're building up that space in general.
Yeah, I love that. Please consider joining the Virtual Brain Trust. You'll find it on Google+. We've got about 120 people now, but that's the kind of thing we're trying to do. So if we can connect on that, I'd be delighted. But can you tell me about your what do you call it, the Entrepreneurs Club?
The Entrepreneur Social Club. It's tonight, as a matter of fact. Thursday is my favorite night of the week. We get together. We have a local venue. The venue owner puts up the venue for the evening, basically, and that's his contribution. And we all meet there. We do the standard business networking, handing out cards and good, drinks and greetings and introductions and all the rest of that. But then we have a whole series of exercises that we go through where we talk about, for instance, we have one called "What'd You Buy from China This Week?" And really examine our consumer habits through the week, especially running our business, to see, are there places where we're spending money where the savings really aren't that great, and it would be a much greater benefit to move that money back to a local vendor.
I just applaud you guys. That's in Clearwater, right?
Yep.
I just
actually, Yeah,
What a
the
great
club
idea.
itself is in downtown St. Pete at a venue called Nova 535. And I literally, in the 18 months that I've been attending, and it's really become like a weekly tradition, we always go unless there's, something drastic happening. But I've seen my business gross revenues triple in 18 months just by getting so aggressively involved with a committed local social networking group.
Well, what fun. I would like to take some of those ideas and transfer them online. To the extent they can. I fully realize that real world is better than online, but this is a good facsimile. This is a good copy of that. So I think those are really cool.
I think one of the things that I'm involved with is another group here on Google Plus called Accountants, Bookkeepers, and Business Owners, or ABO for short. And the group is really aimed at sort of accounting and bookkeeping and all those things for small business, and tax as well. But what I'm finding, it's a group that started off with about 4 or 5 of us, and now it's grown, 300 or 400 people. We do our weekly hangout. But from a business point of view, for our business here, we're getting clients that aren't in Houston, that are in California or in New York, way out of our normal reach. Through this group, so they're coming to us saying, "Can you help us with our tax? Can you help us with our bookkeeping?"
Yeah, now that's interesting because I would think that having people all in one industry that way would make that harder, not easier. But you're saying that's not the case.
No, because we're getting this group gets all sorts of different business owners from all sorts of different walks of life and sectors. Because it's become a go-to place where you have a question about, how do I do my bookkeeping, or am I doing this right? And so they're coming to us, asking us those questions.
Now how do you avoid the situation I've seen happen before, where you have an industry group like that, and some customer walks in, and everybody jumps on them like a bunch of piranhas? So are people polite, or
extremely polite. I mean, it's more of a self-help group. We're not. It's not an aggressive group where people are trying to grab the business. It's extremely easy going. And nobody goes out there and says, waves their company flag. If somebody wants to talk to, the individual offline, then that's great, and that does happen. And we've got plenty of, times when that's happened for us.
I think there's an important point there that he kind of touched on about a good networking group that really deserves to be explored a little bit. We have quite a few, web designers, developers, programmers of all different levels, app developers, whatever, in our group. And there's a lot of collaboration that occurs between all of us, and sometimes that's really mind-blowing for somebody's got a lot of noise.
Yeah, I don't know if that means
it's April.
April, you got some feedback. Maybe you can mute your mic just when you talk. Unmute it, but just while you're. How'd you know that, Chris? How could you tell it was her?
Looking at the sound indicators at the bottom under each icon.
Oh, I see. Okay. Other thoughts from anybody? We're talking about just general collaboration. I'm interested in these stories are great and they're spurring ideas for me. But we've got, with the entrepreneurs group now, we've got 15,000 members. So that's both an advantage and a disadvantage. But what kind of collaboration do you like? What kind of topics? How can we help each other? Is the easy way. Other thoughts? I just want to kind of go into listening mode here.
I think it'd be nice to have more face-to-face meetings such as this hangout. But one thing I found about social networking, as far as posts and getting people to interact, is pretty easy to do. But when you try to take it the next step further, it always seems like a hard thing. I don't know if anyone else has noticed that, as far as involvement with even setting up a hangout, or be trying to do a group project. You notice it
it's brutally hard. It's brutally hard. I've been trying for years, and I keep bashing my head against the wall. I'm hoping the wall caves in one of these days. But, one of the things I'm doing with these, I haven't announced it publicly, but I'm starting to do them every Tuesday and Thursday at this time. And that's just kind of to kind of break through. And I learned a lot just how to do this one. I sort of see it almost like, you know, they talk about airline pilots, they just log hours. I want to start just logging hours on the Hangouts just to get to know people, what they're up to.
Consistency is the key. I mean, that's really what it comes down to.
I think people will see it, and then they'll start doing them their own, because, you know, I want us to evolve on the entrepreneurs community. You know, that community is Google's name. You know, it's not really a community yet, but I think we're starting to see elements of it. But I want it to evolve into a real community, you know, where we start knowing each other. And, you know, even like Adrian says, where we start giving each other leads, or start knowing what people do well and what they don't do well, what they're trying to do, being able to help them, being able to help each other, paying forward sometimes. You got the picture. The more we know each other, and like, you know, what is that number called? Dunbar's number? Nobody can know everybody. We've got a limit of about 200 contacts we can know.
Yeah, I mean,
so,
it's like
knowing somebody who knows somebody, you know, is helpful.
It's like looking at, you know, somebody mentioned LinkedIn earlier on. You know, LinkedIn's great. I mean, but it's static. You know, I find, and I don't, and I've got a lot of, you know, connections through LinkedIn. Some tenuous connections, some people I know really well. But this way, I really make a connection with somebody. You know, and if it's a business owner, you know, the conversation always comes around to something about business. And, you know, I'm not, every conversation I have is not always about me, you know, growing my revenue. Sometimes I can help somebody, you know, and that's the way I see it. 'Cause if I can help somebody, maybe, you know, maybe it's a marketing firm. One day they can help me about, you know, I have a question.
Yeah.
I see there's a few of us gray hairs up in here. Right, Rob, you've got a bit of silver sporting. I have quite a bit that I bring to the table, and Adrian, what I do see of it there does seem to be a bit of that gray. You know, when we got guys like Charlie who were, you know, starting out and just trying to get in the beginning. When you start, you're hungry, you're reaching for everything, you're trying to grab everything, and that's where you get a lot of those people who are all trying to jump on the same lead or something along that line. But the longer that we've been in the industry, the more established we are, you start to get a real good feel for, do I really need this client? Is this client even a good match for me? You know, and so you find that, like, you have a lot of stuff that you just start referring off and start sending out. And what I was starting to say earlier before the feedback kind of overtook it is that I had one of the people in the Entrepreneur Social Club come up to me and say, you're a fellow web developer. It's really cool that despite us being in competition, that it doesn't ever seem like that. And I just told him, said, Johnny, we're not in competition. Your clients are your clients. My clients are my clients. And if they came to you instead of me, they weren't going to be my client. And if they came to me and I determined that they weren't a good client for me, then they're still not going to be my client. I'm going to pass that on through. You know, and the less hungry you get, the better choices you're making about which business you engage in. And that means that a lot of that room that comes to you, or a lot of that business that comes to you, you can easily just go ahead and pass on. And again, costs you nothing.
Yeah, Chris, that's a wonderful thought. I mean, people have way too much of a competition headset, where it should be a cooperation headset. Mindset, I guess is the word. Because, you know, there's not that much, you know, in a way you can consider everybody your competitor, but in the real world, there's just not that many competitors. There's only so many clients, and you're only going to get a few. Go ahead. Was that April talking, or who was saying?
Actually, I lost the thought. Go ahead.
I'll try and get it back.
Oh, I know what I was going to say now. But, you know, at the same time, I do the same thing when I go in and talk to a business owner, you know, and he wants to do his own thing. I'll tell him, I'll tell you exactly. I'll give you the information that you can go and read. You can watch webinars, whatever, to do it by yourself if you want to. But in reality, they don't want to take the time to do it, so they end up calling me anyway.
It's a pain in the ass. And that's exactly, you know, with the service I was thinking of, which in theory was a competitor of yours, of helping people with their Google Plus listings. I did a little, and it's in draft form because I haven't even started this service. I'm talking to a potential partner about it. But I was going to do a little, you know, cut an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper into 4 pieces, and then just sum it up on a little tiny piece of paper. And it was just a take it or leave it deal. It's like, here's what we're doing. And I actually said right on there, you could do this yourself, but it's kind of okay. I didn't say.
And that's basically what I do. I do the same thing when I walk into a business. These are the services I can offer. This is how I can help your business. You know, if you're not interested, they tell me they're not interested. I walk out the door, leave them my information.
Yeah, that's fine, and that actually helps your sale because it's sort of like, you know.
Oh yeah, because then they also look at you as though you must have enough business that you don't need their business.
Yeah, it's like when you have a girlfriend, you know, all of a sudden all women are after you.
I don't need you because I got 3 of them on the side, huh?
but it's true. I mean,
you notice I'm the only girl here with all these guys.
Go ahead, Adrian.
No, what I was going to say, I mean, this idea of walking away from business, you know, I think you mentioned it earlier on. I mean, a lot of us here have been in business a while. You know, this particular company of ours, we've been on the go for about 2 years. We have other businesses that are a lot more mature than that. But we learned, you know, at first we were taking every single client that walked through the door, and but soon learned that that was a mistake. And now, absolutely, we're very choosy. You know, it takes time to do bookkeeping. I mean, everybody's a business owner here. They know doing your books takes a while. You know, so we do it for a living. You know, so we've got to be careful with who we take. And I will, without doubt, either fire a client if it's not working out, nicely, of course, or refer them off.
Sometimes nicely.
Certainly. Yeah. Well, yeah, most times nicely.
Yeah. I have a client once, and it's the first one I've had in a while. I don't even want to call him a client. It just, I just don't want to work with the guy. I mean, just like made everything difficult, you know, and made simple things more complicated than they needed to be. And I won't go into the details since we're being recorded here, but I'm not a happy camper with the way things came down. But I wanted to mention a related thought to, you know, the competition issue about, you know, people overemphasize the competition. Another thing I see overemphasized, and this is a little bit more for the people in the startup world, is the value of their ideas. And ideas are good, ideas are important, but people think that, you know, if you just say an idea, someone's just going to grab it and run off and build whatever you were thinking. And that just doesn't happen. You know, people are just sitting there waiting to steal your idea. So there was actually a New York Times article about that. So, you know, you got an idea, tell everybody. You know, you're actually better off with it. Go ahead, I'm sorry about that. Chris was going to say something?
That was Nathaniel.
Nathaniel? Go ahead, Nathaniel.
Oh, no, I was just saying I've met people like that where they have this great idea for a website they want to build or some product they want to build, and then they won't tell you. They want you to sign, you know, waivers and whatever.
Oh, yeah, non-disclosure agreements, yeah, all this stuff.
If you can't give me a 5-minute pitch on your product without me signing an NDA, I'm really not interested in doing business with you.
I had a friend who was actually a very, very good friend, and he was always talking about this idea he had. He acted like it was going to make him rich someday, and but he wouldn't tell me what it was. You can trust me. You know, I'm your friend. I'm not going to tell. I'll try to help you. Wouldn't tell me. Somehow thought I was going to run out and do it. It was ridiculous, you know. And
I guess
after
people just, like,
years,
they hear the Facebook story how, you know, you start projects with certain people and then they go off and do their own thing, or how, I don't know how that went down, but you hear stories about that, and then it makes you think, what if this is the idea?
Yeah, maybe that's it. But I got to tell the rest of the story. So after years of hearing him talk about this idea, and I'm really talking about years, I'm not exaggerating, he finally said he looked it up on the internet or something. I think he didn't even look it up, just found it by accident, and somebody had already done it. You know what the idea was? It was an ant-proof cat dish, because he was a cat guy. He had a bunch of cats, and the idea was that you would have a cat food dish, and around the edge you would have a little water trough that you would fill up, and the ants wouldn't be able to get in the cat food. This was his billion-dollar idea. That was what you wouldn't tell me?
You know, I think a lot of people don't get that it's a very rare idea that really is so cutting edge and industry disruptive that it's just by itself and needs to be protected in that way. The vast majority of ideas are had by multiple people at multiple times, including the biggest ones like radio and light bulb and all the rest of these things. Multiple inventors around the world were working on these concepts simultaneously. The idea is not the business. The execution is the business. And it doesn't matter how many million-dollar ideas you have. If you don't differentiate, if you don't deliver, you're done.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
guys, I am not. I'm kind of purposely making these short. And the reason I explained in the last one was that it's like when you go to your gym. They say if you have a gym membership and you go to work out, and so you go your first time and you work out for 2 hours, but you don't go the next time. So I plan on repeating these. So I'm going to wind this down. I want to give everybody their last thoughts or last chance, and you guys can still keep talking after I leave. But any parting thoughts on some of the questions, ways we can cooperate, topics you'd like for future meetings, or just whatever's on your mind? And go ahead, just jump in. Anybody who wants to say anything.
I'm just enjoying meeting new people, so thank you guys.
Okay, so you just like the networking aspects. We'll keep doing that. And I've enjoyed meeting you, April, too. I've learned stuff from you and what you're doing. I appreciate your openness and sharing.
On collaboration, I would say that I make it a policy personally that if it's less than 15 minutes, it's not billable time, and I take that same approach to everyone I meet on a regular basis. So, you know, somebody that I help for 10 minutes on a quick hangout, 6 months down the road comes back and becomes a $15,000, $20,000 client. I mean, you know, what did it hurt me to spend that 15 minutes? If it's less than a quarter hour, give it freely.
Okay. Yeah, that's a great.
I agree with Chris. I mean, if you know, people come to us and say, "I've got a QuickBooks problem" or something like that, and it's a quick fix, then why not? You know, it's not billable, and it's helping somebody out.
That's a wonderful thought. Anyone else?
Yeah, for me, I'm just happy to be here in the Hangout. Like, I focus on my affiliate marketing stuff every day, and it's just my website, my content, my work, and it's nice to branch out and see what other people's projects are.
Yeah, and Nathaniel, I think you've got a cool business, and I appreciate you giving me access to your e-course. I'm going to check it out. I just haven't had time. I definitely want to for a lot of different reasons. And you mentioned also you're interested in San Diego.
Well, I mean, I might move down to Southern California in August this year. I have a friend in Riverside.
Oh, okay. Well, cool. Well, we'll have to connect up, you know, and exchange some ideas. Anyone else? Michael, do you have any thoughts?
Well, one of the things that I'm missing is in Northwest Indiana that the startup community is a little thin on the ground. Nobody can do it all, and I'm certainly looking for people who maybe have some spare time and might want to collaborate.
Oh, absolutely. And, you know, I think that local has been overemphasized in startup communities. Like, it's important, but I think they're ignoring, like, what we're doing right now. You know, I talked a little bit about Startup Weekend, which is a wonderful organization. We studied them as part of a class I took in entrepreneurial technology from Stanford. And they do some great things, but you have to be in the same city. Your perfect partner could be 50 miles away or 100 miles away in a different city, and you wouldn't connect with them. And I think you can do business this way. It's maybe not as good, but it's pretty good.
One success story for us before we leave, you know, from Google Hangouts alone, I have now a very good tax partner that we work with, and they're based in Missouri, and I'm down here in Texas, and that's all through Google+, you know, and through Hangouts.
I think
it works.
We barely scratched the surface on this technology for a small business. I really think it's going to place. Charlie, do you have any parting thoughts for us?
Well, I guess one thing I didn't share that I did do is I did develop some resources and started a private community from the entrepreneur community where I can just throw a project in it and then everyone can work on it. I just, like I said before, getting people to join and share the same passion with the idea, I guess, just isn't taken off yet.
Oh, so what's the community about? Is it about your projects, or is it just
people that do things, as we mentioned with competition, people that do things similar. I don't have the ability to hire a bunch of employees at my startup, so instead of, if I continue to sell, I have a way to make sure things get done and I can still deliver.
Well, remind me what your startup is again. I think you said at the beginning.
It's construction marketing and management. Right. Okay. So for an example, a client comes to me to do a website. Instead of me sitting down and doing it, I would bring it to that community where everyone could. Someone would take care of the optimization. Someone could take care of the graphic design.
Now, are you doing project management for those guys at all, or?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Are you using cloud-based stuff, or what do you use?
I just became an advisor for UDA Technologies that provides software solutions for that.
Okay.
And
the reason I ask is there's a lot of good stuff out there these days.
Yeah.
It's just, I was in Project Management Institute for years, and I didn't really like the methodology they had back then. But now they've got this new task-based stuff that really makes a lot of sense. I love Asana, for example. But there's another one, Spotlight Software, is a more, they're on the community. I can't remember the name of the product, but they've got a nice thing that's more team-based. But the point is, there's all sorts of hot project management tools out there for collaboration now. And I thought that would be a cool thing to do in the construction industry, because obviously they need it. They use it extensively. Other thoughts, anybody? Anybody going once, going twice?
I gotta go. See you guys.
You gotta go. April, pleasure meeting you. I hope we'll see you the next time.
Yeah,
I'm gonna turn off the camera now.